And so, um, talked a little bit about our air quality, what might be contributing to that. And I think now we're going to hear a little bit more about maybe some other things that you can do from Detroit Recycles. We have Mr. Galen Hardy who's going to present to you. So come on down. Yeah.
I'm Galen Hardy. I'm not a recycler. I just stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So, no, but I'm Galen Hardy of Zero Waste Detroit. There, I serve as the education and outreach coordinator. Um, one of our most important things we do at Zero Waste, we like to elevate the issue of environment. In the city of Detroit, residents, we face so many issues. We face economic issues, blight, crime, lack of education, a lot of things that we can, see and touch. So my goal is to ensure that the environment, something that you really can't see, and what I try to do is elevate that up to the same level as those other issues, so that every time I meet a resident, they're properly informed. And what I like to do first is always tell them where their trash goes. There, what we do is try to change their behaviors. We figure that if residents know, the consequences of their behaviors, they're more likely to change those behaviors. So, people always say, well, recycling is behavior modification, and it is that, because it forces you to think before you throw something away. There's a document that we give out to all the residents. It's why your trash never goes away in Detroit. Because we tell residents, everything that you put into that black trash can, some residents have 2 and 3 of them. It gets burned up and comes back to you by way of air pollution. So we do our best, to tell them that and tell them, the issues that they are facing. In many communities of color where you find black, brown, and poor people, you find environmental injustice, and that's from Alabama, Houston, Baltimore, So what we do is just try to give the residents those tools. So when they see those, policymakers or those folks that want their votes, they can be informed and ask them the right questions, and then we can get some traction. So that's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we tell residents about the do's and don'ts of recycling. And we always say, no plastic bags. Ann Arbor tried to ban this item. This is an item we probably only use 2 minutes. So walk out the store, take our groceries in the house, and then we throw it away. And it ends up in incineration. Other countries, it's ended up in the ocean. They say that 10 rivers pollute all the oceans. So a lot of times, it's all based upon us, and we try to educate folks. So we tell them, like, about your paper. All of your papers can go to the recycling bin. A lot of papers don't even make it into my house. From the mailbox, it goes to the recycling bin. So that's your junk mail. That's those advertisements, those newspapers that they're always balling up and leaving on our porches. That's that telephone book. I got some yellow pages a couple of weeks ago. Imagine how much paper that is, how many trees that is. That went straight to the recycling bin because I could use Yelp. But I know that there's a digital divide in the city, so it's needed in some places. Also, those menus, political advertisements, all those can go right back into your recycling bin. And what you want to do with your junk mail, just take your name and personal information off. All of your cardboard, the presents that you get, the TVs that you buy, the TV dinners that you purchase from the store, the grit boxes, the oatmeal boxes, the toilet paper inserts, paper towel inserts. Those are all the things that people have been throwing away. And another thing I say, recyclables are not trash. So that item that I passed out, all those items that's in the square for you to recycle, we can't call that trash anymore, because we have to change our mindsets to say this is recyclables. So it would be those cardboard, those shoe boxes, as well as those oatmeal boxes, the pizza boxes. But what you want to make sure, all of your recyclables must be clean. So once you put the garlic butter and Parmesan on that Little Caesars, toss it. But what you can do is take the top part that doesn't have the butter and all that debris on it, and you can put that right back into the recycling bin. All of your plastics, and this always get folks. You know, I tell them about your mustard bottles, ketchup bottles, the juices we buy from the liquor stores or convenience stores, gas stations. It can be the body wash, lotion bottles, shampoo bottles, a lot of the things that we buy and, you know, continue to pollute the earth with those plastics, those all can go right back into your recycling bin, as well as those butter containers that we like to, you know, once it's empty, it'll be a cereal bowl one week, it'll be Tupperware another week. So we've been recycling, you know, reduce, reuse, recycle. So we've been doing it. But, you know, once you get 20 of them, you need to, you know, cut down and recycle those. Also, your metals. Metals, I mean, it could be like aluminum foil. Those dollar pans that we buy during, you know, 4th of July is coming up. We're going right to the dollar store, and we're going to get those dollar pans, you know, to make our meat or season it up or take the meat out and put it in that pan. And then we might use it again, but it goes in the can, in a trash can. But now, since we have recycle bins, you can recycle that. You want to get that debris out, as well as the aluminum foil, as well as those cans. I know a lot of folks ain't using cans because, you know, we cook, you know, fresh vegetables and all that. But for those of you who do use canned goods, you know, rinse it out, put it right back into your recycling bin. That goes for those Faygo cans, the Arizonas that we buy. And they don't, you know, some of those cans don't have 10 cents on it. And they've been going into the trash, which goes to the incinerator. So now you can just recycle that. As well as items that you should not put into there. You should never put styrofoam into your recycling bin. I don't even buy styrofoam. You know, I could put styrofoam right here, jump in a time machine, go 100 years into the future and come right back. It'll still be here. So that's a problem. Light bulbs, paint, anything that twists or ties, no water hoses. You know, I know some folks want to recycle everything, but it's all about this. When in doubt, throw it out. You know, and that makes sure that the recycling doesn't get contaminated. And it gets contaminated when people put bags, behavior modification. We're so trained to bag everything up. But for your recycling, you don't have to bag it up. You just drop it in there. And my new slogan, bin is your friend. So that's the recycling bin. Also, liquid waste, no mirrors, no drinking glasses, no batteries. Batteries are dangerous for those folks that are at the MRF or wherever. You know, sometimes those things explode, so we don't want to put batteries in there. But what you can do, we have a great recycling center, and it's on Holden, which isn't too far from here. It's right behind Henry Ford Hospital. The HAP Insurance is across the street from Henry Ford Hospital on the boulevard. Right behind HAP is Recycle Here. You know, there's some residents I've encountered, they don't want to throw anything away. So I tell them all the time, Recycle Here will take your styrofoam, they'll take your plastic bags, they'll take your light bulbs, batteries, paint, and computer parts. So, and then also, if you go in there and see something that you want, they'll let you take it out for free because, like I said before, recycling is based on 3 R's. It's reduce. So instead of buying 100 water bottles, buy you a reusable water bottle and drink the best water in the land, Detroit tap water. And then what you're doing is you're not taking resources from the earth. Actually, to create that water bottle, it takes petroleum, and it actually takes more water than they put in the bottle to create the bottle. So that tells you how much waste is going on. Also, another thing, the city now has a text messaging service. On the west side of town where I live, sometimes we have 3 or 4 days to remember, and it's kind of hard, and that's in regards to your bulk, recycling, yard waste, and recycling. But the city of Detroit now has text messenger services where they'll remind you to take out your trash. And that number is right on the back of this sheet. It's the 313-800-7905 number. What you will do is just text your home address to that number. The city will text you back immediately within like 3 or 4 seconds. And you respond to that text with add me, ADD space ME. And you're all set. That's how simple it is. And also you'll get reminders from the county sometimes about big recycling, hazardous waste events. You might even get a text about snow emergencies as well. But in the middle of this sheet that I gave everyone, I hope everybody has, there's instructions for you to help somebody else get a recycling bin. And it goes back to the adage, each one teach one. So we have instructions for computer users. For you to go on the city website, you can get a recycling bin there for free by taking the city's recycling challenge. Or you can, for mobile users, you can go to zerowastedetroit.org and you can get a recycling bin that way too as well. So I'll take any questions at this time. Go ahead.
I heard recently about a fourth R, and it's refuse. So when you go to grocery stores, you don't have to take the plastic bags. You can ask for paper.
Yes, and go ahead.
Second, the Wayne County recycles virtually everything. I think once a year. Just recently over at Henry Ford College, they had one Saturday they had people bring everything that you mentioned, like the paint and light bulbs and all those computers and TVs, those kinds of things. It was a lot of stuff. I think over 1,000 cars were there for that.
Oh, yes.
And third, I think about a week ago, I heard that China's no longer accepting our recycling, and I was just wondering if anyone else heard that, and what could happen if they continue to refuse our recyclables.
See, China did us a favor, honestly, because it's going to force us to innovate and use those products here. So Detroit being the home of innovation, this is an opportunity, really for, entrepreneurs to say, hey, I can create a new product out of that plastic, or I can create a new product, out of this other item. So that's really important, but you are right, China's not accepting it because for so many years they just took it. It was some of the items were dirty, they took it. Now they're saying, look, we have enough. I think they call it a green fence or green sword or something. But whatever it is, it's really affecting those West Coast, like Seattle, San Francisco, those other areas, Oregon. Those other areas who are closer to the Orient, and that was their major markets. But it's going to affect us all. Everything trickles down. So we're at, and we're kind of lucky because we're at the beginning. And this gives us an opportunity, instead of just saying, well, we're going to try to, divert waste. No, we're going to try to divert waste and create new items. So that is that new R.
Hi, I've been to your facility on Holden many years ago. Do they not sell a plastic bag that's reusable, a bag similar to that, or did they used to sell that?
I haven't seen any, I've seen cassava bags. Okay. And that was in another country. It was a plant-based bag. Is that a cassava bag? Okay. Yes.
Second question. I'm the only little apartment building in Indian Village, and for years I've tried to get recycled, and they said no. And I'm like, we're here, the alley's here, my neighbor here, she has a recycle bin, but we can't get it. Maybe we need to talk about why it is we can't recycle in the apartment building. I mean, people want to, but they're saying no.
Well, the first apartment building that I've known, who has, taken resident interest and created, a recycling program was out there at Garden View, and we're working with them now. I mean, the city doesn't mandate anything.
Okay.
So everything is optional. They don't like to feel like they're imposing. That's the word. But it's going to take residents to talk to those council people and say, we're cool with it. Because right now, that multi-unit or apartment building, it's up to the ownership. Right now, unless it's like public housing where the housing commission, you know, the city own the land and they own the building, they can kind of say, well, we're going to start it here, you know, but is, you know, like private businesses, it's still optional. And, you know, if you really look at climate change and the things that they're talking about, we need to get really, really serious about it.
Third question. Is it true that in Southeast Asia, in the waters, we have a floating plastic thing 3 times the size of Texas?
Yes,
Okay.
that is true. And we need to also implore the federal government to help the EU clean up the oceans, you know, because right now, those fish and clams and things that we like to eat out of the ocean, they're feeding us back the garbage that we're feeding them. So, I mean, even in your water bottles, you got plastic fibers. I was reading something in the craft beers, you got plastic fibers, you know, and that's all based on us.
Hi, good afternoon. I understand that residential recycling does not allow for styrofoam to be placed in the bins and the batteries either. But what about plastic bags that are considered number 2, but they still can't go in the bin?
No plastic bags. And the reason why we don't put any plastic bags in there, they clog up the machines over at the MRF. So they take a lot of manpower hours to stop the machines, you know, the sorting machines or whatever, and pull those bags out. So even though this bag I showed you has a recycling symbol on it, you know, and also no potato chip bags in your recycling. But this has a recycling symbol on it, and it's confusing. So that's why it's good. You know, education is ongoing. You know, that's another thing. We need to make sure that we are continuously educating residents, because this is a new phenomenon for a lot of us. And also on the city's website, there's also a waste sorter, S-O-R-T-E-R. So if you got questions about whether or not an item is recyclable, just say, you know, microphone. You know, type in microphone, and it'll tell you what to do with it, you know. So that's on the city's website, too.
Good afternoon. When you call to complain regarding the odor and the smell, how often should you call? Because I've called once, and, you know.
But make sure you're not in the car. You know, make sure you want to be outside the car. You're not on the freeway.
No, I was at home.
Yeah, you have to be stationary. That's a really good point, you know, because some folks will be riding, hey, I smell something. You know, they'll say, where you are? Well, I'm driving in my car, and that could be
I was at the house, and they didn't tell me that someone was coming out. So when a man came and knocked on my door, I didn't answer it because I didn't know who he was. And it wasn't until after he walked away, and I kept saying, I couldn't imagine who he was. And then it dawned on me that may be, you know, who he was, because I would have been more than glad to have talked to him if they had told me that he was going to come out. But I'm almost certain that that's who it was.
Well, if they are, I'm not sure if they do home visits, do they?
Yeah, but I would have really liked to have talked to him if they had told me that someone was going to come out. Every time, because I got the impression, because when I spoke to the lady, she said that I didn't need to call all the time.
I call every time. I call every time.
Okay, then I'll do that then. I'll do that. Okay.
Because they're doing this to us.
Yeah.
So, you know, however they're feeling about it or whatnot, you know, that's on them. But we're trying to protect our seniors, our babies, and our community. So that's what we're worried about.
Let me just highlight a couple things, kind of some thoughts. First of all, this point about the relationship between stress and adverse health effects. So I don't know if you heard that, you know, if you're under stress, then it's even worse when you have these particular environmental exposures. So that's something that you want to address also. The other piece about, you know, becoming politically active or making sure that there's some advocacy efforts around that. You know, if you're finding that there are legislators that seem to be responding to you, you know, share that information, highlight them. On the report card, you actually get a point for, you get an A for writing letters to political officials. So you also get an A if you are, if you've picked up 2 pieces of garbage that you didn't personally throw down, because you can't throw it down and then pick it up, that don't count. And if you've done that and you recycle. So how many people here recycle? Awesome. Okay, so here's the other challenge. Go down to the recycle center, take a quick selfie, send it to us so we can post it. I just think that would be kind of cool, okay?